Zach, I'm not begging for money, bro, but this is how I earn my living. Any little bit helps, man. I gotta get a galaxy, guys, if you want me to answer the tough questions. I know that sounds like greedy and stuff, but again, this is how I'm making my living now, guys. I'm making my living now, guys.
So you know, if you've been here before, that I have talked about our favorite, most hardworking, dedicated dad who, cosplays being single for his very feral demographic of lonely female fans. I've talked about him a time or for being honest, 3 here on my channel. And the next husband that we are going to be bringing onto my channel reminds me so much of where I think Chris, the solo dad, is heading. So the creator in question goes by Hubslife on TikTok. He built this whole brand around being your everyday 9 to 5 guy, only to quit that said 9 to 5 job. And then he goes on to immediately lose his viewership, his dedicated fan base that he had built, and then he starts begging for money on TikTok live. With this guy, the pipeline from, beloved content creator who's normalizing the normal life to just absolute train wreck. It's very real and it's very wild to watch unfold in real time. And honestly, it's not just him. We see this happen with so many content creators that I think it's worth talking about. It's worth having a discussion about. So let's just get right into it. So I thought I was going to be a little bit too late to the whole Hubslife discussion, but I put up a little poll on my channel to see if there was any interest, and a lot of you guys said yes, you would like a video on him. So make sure you're subscribed so that you can also participate in these polls. I've been doing them more lately just to kind of get an idea of what type of content you guys want me to cover. But if you are completely unaware of who Hubslife is, he's a guy named Connor Hubbard, which honestly, I was thinking Hubslife was a play off of like husband, hubby, stay at home hubby, but I guess it's because his last name's Hubbard. Anyway, he basically built a really large following trying to, what he would say, normalize the normal. He would film content revolving around his corporate 9 to 5 job, and he would encourage people not to feel bad about working a 9 to 5. And this is what every single video for hundreds of videos was like. Normalizing the norm. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example of one of his most popular videos. It has over 22 million views. And all of the comments are very supportive. They love it. They loved this type of content that he would create. And you're going to see it's very basic content. He doesn't speak. He plays very kind of dreary, mundane music. I'm going to have the video muted. I'm going to read you what the captions are. Okay, so it says, day in a life of a guy with a 9 to 5. Pack up and head out for the day. So in all of his videos, he would show him kind of just suiting up, getting ready for work. Says he is a senior analyst. He works at the office 4 days a week, and he genuinely enjoys what he does. Says he gets a 1 hour work break. He gets to go home, have fun, let the dog out, do all the things. Makes your average microwave lunch. Very, very relatable stuff. And then he says he goes back to the office, works until about 4:20, does the same laptop thing, heads home. You can see he says he works out 4 to 5 days a week, takes his dog for a walk. Again, very basic stuff he's doing, breaking down boxes, stuff that the everyman can relate to. And that's it. That's the video. That is what he built his brand around, doing those type of videos, like I said, where he's not talking, he's not saying anything, he's just putting in sort of just the basic stuff that he does every single day, the kind of thing that so many of us do every single day. And he's just saying, normalize the normal. It's okay if your life looks like this, if it's just kind of boring, it's okay. Look, I'm doing it too, and I'm still happy. I'm still really fulfilled with my life. And that was his main message. It was really about letting go of hustle culture and focusing on actually enjoying your life. Like, you don't have to be a millionaire by the time you're 30. You don't have to constantly grind and hustle for the next big thing. It's perfectly fine to work an average job without feeling like you have to chase more. And his whole thing was that's not only okay, that's more than okay. He was someone that people could genuinely relate to. He made a lot of people feel a whole lot better about having a so-called boring or ordinary life, which is, as we know, pretty rare. And I also feel like it's something that more and more people are craving with influencers. It's just normal life, authenticity, all of that. He even shared at one point he quit his 9 to 5 to try being his own boss, but that he didn't enjoy it. He missed the structure and he hated the stress of wondering if he'd make enough each month. In the end, he went back to corporate life and was happier for it. A steady paycheck, benefits, clear structure, being home for dinner and weekends off ended up suiting him much better. And he even would reaffirm his followers all the time, saying, I will never leave my 9 to 5 again. I don't care how big I get on social media, on TikTok, on any of that. I don't care. I don't want that life. I want the structure. So this type of content is not going anywhere. Doesn't matter how many people follow me or not. I am going to continue doing corporate life. So that was his entire brand. That was his TikTok personality. That's all people really knew him for. Again, he was pretty private in a sense. We didn't really hear him talking. We didn't know a lot about him except that he, worked this corporate job and it was making people feel better about themselves, about their life being boring. So with all that being said, you can only imagine how surprised people were when he posted this TikTok. So he mentioned that he was going to be working a new kind of 9 to 5. And by the next video or two, he was back to posting the exact type of content. He would show himself getting ready for work, getting dressed, doing the morning commute, lunch break, everything. And at first, people seemed pretty relieved that his content wasn't changing. That, yeah, he got a new job, but he was still the same old Hubs life that people fell in love with. But then viewers started to catch on to something. He hadn't started a new 9 to 5 at all. He had just rented an office space at a WeWork building to make it look that way. He was only going to that building to film content and edit that content. Once people caught on to that, which happened pretty quickly, those office videos were no longer a thing. And he turned his comments off for quite a while because he was getting a lot of heat for that and some other stuff that we're going to get into. Eventually, though, he did very recently open his comments back up, fully embracing being a full-time content creator and saying that he was doing it to be more present with his son. Because I guess that the average person that works a 9 to 5 job can't be present with their kids. Again, completely negating what he had been preaching to his audience for such a long time. But anyway, people felt really betrayed by this, and rightfully so. This is the same guy who said he would never quit his 9 to 5 to become a full-time content creator because he would never give up the stability or benefits that a 9 to 5 offers.
But what you did is you took a lot of people who were maybe coming to terms with this lifestyle or this existence, and you told them, like, no, like, this is okay. There is not shame in living like this. There's nothing wrong with living like this. In the era of the internet, we don't all need to be someone special. In the era of the internet, it is still okay to just, like, earn an honest living, basically. But then what you realize is earning an honest living kind of sucks. And working 9 to 5 in an office kind of sucks. So then you did what I would describe as one of the greatest intellectual frauds, perhaps the greatest rug pull in the history of TikTok. And you rugged your entire like community and audience. And and you completely switched up on them and basically everything you had been like saying about like no, like I love this, it's normal, it's great. Like it wasn't true. And for someone that is like struggling with their life and what it looks like and found like peace in what you were putting out, yeah, man, of course they're going to be upset about this. Like this is not surprising, right? So this like double down you've done where you're like, yeah, like everyone's switched up on me, got too many haters now, people just don't want to see me eat. Are you delusional, dude? No, like no one cares that you're making marginally more money now, like hawking Chinese white label products on your TikTok story and asking for galaxies. That's not why these people are upset. Dude, these people are upset because like the modern American office worker, like that outlook is bleak and you were giving people hope and then you rug pulled them. And everything that you had said about, oh, why do you need to be special? Why can't we just be happy being normal? How are you confused by people taking this somewhat personally? And yeah, if I had been one of your followers, I'd be feeling pretty duped right now. If I had ever sent you money or like supported you financially somehow, I would be feeling absolutely duped right now.
On top of that, people didn't seem to be very happy that Hubslife seemed to be manipulating his audience by outright lying, basically. He knew that people tuned in for his relatable content, so he couldn't just stop doing the office videos so abruptly. But because TikTok and social media was bringing him in enough money to quit his job, he took that opportunity and he ran with it. But again, people tuned in for his 9 to 5 corporate job, so he rented an office space to pretend like he was still working for corporate. I guess basically buying time to slowly dive into full-time content creation. And once it came out that he had been lying to his audience, people started to criticize him, criticize his shift in content. And that's when Hubslife started to develop a bit of an attitude. He basically labeled anyone who said anything less than positive as a hater or jealous. And the issue with that is, up until that point, we hadn't really seen much of a personality before with Hubslife. So suddenly, with very little prior connection, no smiles, no real interaction with his fans, with his audience, this new, or maybe not so new, he was just keeping it under wraps, but this attitude, it made him come across as unlikable. And what didn't help that, he continued to dig the hole deeper by doing a live stream, begging for people to send him money. And his personality was really starting to come through.
But you gotta send a galaxy, bro. I gotta get a galaxy, guys. If I send me something, man. It's how I'm making a living. I don't know if I saw a galaxy come through, man. I can't answer any of these. You gotta send me a galaxy, bro. Sam, thank you for the first gift. Roses on deck. I don't know. I think roses are like not a galaxy. I want to answer all these questions, but I really can't right now. Sam, where's the galaxy, bro? I'll answer like 10 questions if you send a galaxy. You gotta send me a galaxy or something. This is a lot more lucrative and I get to work from anywhere in the world. Make money from my telephone. There are any investments other than 401k? You gotta send me a galaxy and I'll answer that. That's the internet for you, though. No one wants to see you doing better than them, right? I'm just a regular chill dude. Zach, I'm not begging for money, bro, but this is how I earn my living, so any little bit helps, man. I gotta get a galaxy, guys, if you want me to answer the tough questions. I know that sounds like greedy and stuff, but again, this is how I'm making my living now, guys.
And the interesting thing is that people were calling him out for begging for money on live, to which he left a comment on someone's TikTok who screen recorded, or at least I think where this comment came from. But Hubslife said that the money was for the Texas flood victims, which he never mentioned, not even once during the live stream. And that comment that he made has since been deleted by Hubslife, I think. So do with that what you will. But in that live stream clip I showed you, he didn't say, guys, this money is going to go to this charity. He was saying, guys, this is how I make my money now. I'm sorry. This is you. I can't answer a question. until you send me money because this is how I make my money. This is how I make my living. Quite frankly, if that money was going to the Texas flood victims and he was doing a fundraiser for it, saying that on the live would have brought more money. People would have wanted to donate. And being that he has not mentioned that money going to any sort of charity, the comment was deleted. It all seems pretty fishy to me. And again, tells me that he was lying and that no, the money was going to his bank account. But lying is something that the Hubs Life does a lot. But that's not the only way that he is trying to make money through social media. He recently shared his new merch that he is selling, a $40 hat and an $85 wallet. Which the ironic thing about that was on his TikTok advertising the hat and wallet, his caption said, "Use your smile to change the world. Don't let the world change your smile." Which again, we haven't really seen him smile. So it's not like he had some bubbly, happy personality on camera or something. He didn't even talk in his videos up until recently. Also, the comments on that TikTok are turned off, which tells me that the launch probably did not go over so well. I mean, who in their right mind is going to go and buy a $40 influencer hat with an H on it? There was no talk of any of the proceeds from this hat or wallet going to even a charity or something, which would have made it a little bit better. But as it is, it would just be a hat with an H on it that he's selling. Again, Hubslife thought all along that people wanted to follow him because of him, that he was a selling point. But no, the selling point was that he was working a normal job and living a normal life and encouraging people to embrace the normalcy of life. The appeal really had nothing to do with him, with Hub's life, with Connor as a person. And honestly, his content has only continued to become more and more unrelatable, which is obviously the case for so many influencers, but Hub's life is often filming himself day drinking, traveling the world, and filming sponsored content. All things that, yes, an influencer does, but all things that people didn't sign up for when they originally followed Hub's life on TikTok. Something that I am genuinely curious about is what Hub's wife thinks about all of this. He doesn't necessarily hide her like Solo Daddy C does with his wife, but she's definitely not a main character on his TikTok. He recently posted a TikTok with his wife, kind of like he was doing one of those trends. I don't even know what trend it's called. But she is just kind of rolling her eyes. She seems very over it. I've also seen some of his videos like surprising my wife with a clean house and she's been working all day.
What's up, everybody? The wife is still at work. The baby's down for a nap. So I'm gonna clean the kitchen so my wife can come home to a clean house. As they say, clean house, happy spouse. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
And it's like, really? You spend 3 hours at the gym every day, grab Chipotle for lunch on the regular, and clearly have some kind of childcare help. You're not exactly swamped with responsibilities. So if your wife is out working while you're living your best life, the bare minimum would be having the house picked up when she gets home, I would think. So I'm curious what she thinks about his new venture. I'm curious what any spouse thinks of their partner who had a regular job, suddenly decides their new mission to become a full-time influencer. What I will say though about Hub's wife is that she isn't insisting that their young son is not in any of the content is questionable to me. But like I said earlier, his comments were turned off up until last month, and since then they've been on for most videos. But so many of the comments are either people continuing to call him out, or there are some fans, I guess, saying that the only people calling him out are just jealous they can't do the same. To which Hub's life will usually like those comments, and there are a lot of people who actually think he is buying bots and buying comments. I can't really confirm if that's accurate, but I did click on a few of the top positive comments I would see, and those accounts did seem a bit suspicious, but who knows. What I will say is that if you are going from comments being so bad that you have to turn the comments off for months to the second that you turn them back on, you have people drooling all over you. I get why people might think he's buying some of his comments, but I don't know. I saw a comment that said, people hating literally celebrate women doing the exact same thing on this app. Avery Woods went from a nurse to being annoying, and y'all swoon over her. This dude is doing nothing wrong. First of all, I don't know who in their right mind is swooning over Avery Woods. I could do a whole video on why I don't think that's the case, especially recently. But what I will say is that I don't think, and I don't know much about Avery, but I don't think she ever said, become a nurse. Don't ever bother trying to be an influencer. It's not worth it. I would never do it. I think if anything, whether Avery would admit it or not, I'm sure that becoming an influencer was always her goal, which is very different from Hubslife, who built his following on the idea that he would never go full-time influencer, only to completely flip the script later. And though I think if he was being honest too, he's always had the goal of full-time content creation. I think that when you post as often as Hub's Life was doing, he had that goal too. But at the end of the day, people followed Hub's Life for his relatable content. And now he is not so relatable. He's not relatable at all anymore to his original core audience. At this point, the views and the engagement that he's getting seem to mostly be from people hate watching, and that only lasts so long. Eventually, people are not going to care to tune in just to call him out. And that's the real risk for him diving headfirst into all of this. But content creation is already a very unstable income source, but it's going to be even more unstable, even more hard when you enter it the way that Hub's Life did. It's kind of like Resilient Jenkins, and hear me out on this one. I know that they seem very different, but hear me out. If Stephanie actually got her life together, fewer people would watch, meaning fewer views, meaning less money. The chaos is what keeps people tuning in. Otherwise, she and Drew would need to get regular jobs. And the same logic applies to Hub's Life, and he knows it. He knew quitting his job and going full-time influencer would rub people the wrong way, and it would cost him views. That's why he tried to keep up the facade of having a corporate job by renting the office space. But once he got called out, I think he was just like, screw it. People know I'm just gonna dive full on. Like I said, I'm gonna do it. I don't care what people think. There's gonna be haters, but people love me. They're gonna watch either way, which again, he really underestimated his audience's devotion to him and their intelligence. But something that Hub's Life likes to call himself from time to time is a solo dad. His wife still works, and I guess he missed my video clarifying what a solo parent is. But what I will say is that most of his videos are him going out to eat, going to the gym, traveling, doing all of these things kids free. Most of his content, his kid is not with him. And you could say, okay, maybe he doesn't film his kid. No, he does film his kid. So he likes to say that he's a solo dad, but his content really says otherwise because most of his content is him out there living his best life without his kid. Many have speculated they think that he has a nanny or some type of childcare, which I think is likely the case given his content, which is totally okay to have a nanny or childcare, but don't go calling yourself a solo dad because you know it's a buzzword and you know it's going to get you more clicks and more sympathy. Needless to say, remind you of anyone that we know. Of course, I'm talking about Chris. Chris the solo dad. They actually have a lot in common, but I think that Chris has more going for himself than Hub's Life. Again, hear me out. If Hub's Life had just been upfront and was clear from the start that his real goal was to grow big enough to quit his job and go full time as an influencer, like Solo Daddy Chris has openly said that he would like to do, it would have been a different story, though I think he would have had a harder time growing the audience size that he did if he was honest from the start. But either way, here is why I think that plan could actually work out better for Chris, the solo dad, than Connor, the Hub's Life. Hub's Life, he's just not very likable. He doesn't come across as humble. He has an attitude. He doesn't seem to understand why people are upset with him. Chris, on the other hand, at least on camera, comes off as this nice guy. He's soft-spoken. He's always painting this picture of, you know the drill. Come along to the Dollar Tree with a broke dad of 3 as I spend the last $10 I have to my name to feed my starving children. Now, you could argue that Chris is misleading his audience because he does lie to his audience often, just like the Hubs Life has lied to his audience. But here is the difference, and there is a difference. Hubs Life's audience is not filled with lonely women like Chris's audience, with some older, some not older, but women who are either lonely or they're miserable in their marriages and they latch onto Chris as this fantasy. Gag me. But some women do. I have some not so nice comments to prove that. But for a lot of these women, even watching him, meaning Chris, unload the dishwasher is enough to make them daydream. I'm going to keep it G. To have these women daydream, fantasize about packing up their suitcases and going to start a new life with Chris. Never mind that he's actually married. People seem to not want to fully understand that because he's being very misleading. Anyway, I digress. My point is that Chris, the solo dad, he still plays this nice guy, and I'm using air quotes because off camera we know that he is not very nice, that he loves to harass women and feel like this superior man. We know that. We all know that, Chris. But your audience apparently doesn't, or they don't want to see it, and whatever. But anyway, on camera, he's the sad, soft spoken dad that women eat up. Sadly for them, not literally, but Hub's Life, Connor, he still hasn't learned that same humility. Maybe he needs to get in touch with Chris because that humility is something that is absolutely necessary if you want to play the long game as an influencer. Because even the most unrelatable content creators can maintain a pretty good, a pretty loyal audience as long as they come across kind and humble. But if you're unrelatable and rude, you're not going to last long in the world of social media, at least making that your full-time career, which is exactly what Hub's Life is trying to do. He's gone from having no personality to being cocky to now feeling like a straight up grifter. And there's really no other way to put it. He started out as the guy offering a refreshing perspective for the average person, someone relatable, and a sea of content creators showing off unrealistic, lavish lifestyles 24/7. It really did make sense why people were gravitating towards him. But when you completely flip your personality, you lie about it, and then you suddenly start traveling the world, pumping out sponsored content, and dismissing criticism by saying people are just being jealous, you are going to lose the very same audience you built your brand on. The same people you once hyped up about how great it was to live an average life, they now see right through you. And the irony is, he thinks he's smarter than everyone else. That's why he rented that office space in the first place. He thought he could fool his audience, but now he's paying the price and he's losing followers who genuinely supported him. Honestly, if he wanted to do content creation full time, it's understandable, but there were better ways he could have went about doing that. He could have tested the waters. He could have shared some tips on transitioning out of leaving your 9 to 5. He could have just eased into the narrative altogether. Anything would have been better than the route that he chose. At this rate, I would not be surprised if he was back at a 9 to 5 by next year. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with that. And if it's getting to the point where you are on TikTok Live begging for people to send you $1, it is beyond time for you to start looking up some new jobs. Just saying. But let me know what you think about this one. Are there any other influencers that come to mind that maybe you started following because they were relatable, and then once they got bigger, you didn't really like them anymore because they weren't relatable? I can think of a few. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed. We are almost at 20,000 subscribers, so that'd be really cool to hit. Yeah, thanks so much for being here. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys in my next video.